right, welcome back to another episode of The Potential Project. I'm your host, Sean Calhoun, and thank you for joining me again this week. So last weekend, I actually took a hot yoga class, and when I walked out of the studio, there was this euphoric state that I was in, right? Like I felt incredible. It wasn't just the fact that I was sweaty, right? But it was just this sense of like I said, like euphoria, right? My mood was better, my body felt lighter, my mind was clearer, and I just remember thinking like this is one of those natural highs that people forget that they have access to. And when I say people, I meant myself. Like you forget that you can actually feel this good and do it on your own accord, right? And the crazy part is we are surrounded by these opportunities to feel better just in a natural way, right? Like things like exercise, saunas, cold plunges, breath work, sunlight, walking, music. I mean, you name it. There are so many things that we can do just naturally or on our own, right? That are just so readily available, and these things can change your entire body, your entire state. But unlike a vice, things that are negative in your life, they actually leave you feeling better than when you started. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is the fact that we have so much access to feeling amazing. And we're going to talk about some of the things that I like to do, what's readily available to you, what it does to your body, and how it can just be a way better choice to deal with what you're going through, right? Because there's a lot of people who are not necessarily chasing pleasure. They're more so trying to distract themselves or escape discomfort in some way, right? Like, for example, you might be feeling stress, you could be overwhelmed, you feel lonely, there's grieving, right? All of these emotions are real life things that we go through. You could be bored, you could just be feeling disconnected from yourself, right? Maybe you feel some pressure from work or your family or just financially, your health, relationships. There's a lot of pressure that can build upon us and be a real stressor and a real problem in our life, right? And as a human, right, when life feels heavy, you look for relief. We have to relieve this problem somehow. And that part of it is not wrong, right? You're a human being. That's just what we do. And wanting to feel better is not wrong, but the question becomes is what are you doing and what are you using to feel better, right? And is it costing you anything? So that's what we're going to dive into, is because life is going to throw us situations that are negative, that are stressful, that are just full of emotion. And as a human being, we need to deal with that somehow, but how are you doing it, right? And there's a big difference between gaining relief and restoring ourselves, right? Relief says, I just need to not feel this feeling right now, and we need to do anything to get it away. Restoration of the body and of the mind is more like supporting the body, supporting your mind, your nervous system, getting all that settled so that you can actually move through the situation in a healthy way, right? And that's why there's a fine line, but a big distinction between vices and these natural things that we have access to that can achieve the same goal, right? Like a vice, like drinking or smoking or whatever your vice may be. There's a ton of them out there, and we don't even have to get into it because you know exactly what yours are. But those things help you disconnect, whereas a healthy modality helps you reconnect to your body, to the situation, right? A vice can typically quiet the pain for a short moment, where that healthy option helps your body process the pain. A vice could create dependency. You can become addicted to it, right? Whereas a healthy modality builds your capacity to take on the stress. So that's another good point, is the fact that we will never escape stress. And you should definitely do your best to minimize how much you're exposed to in life. But doing these healthy modalities that we're going to talk about today, your body, mind, and nervous system will be able to embody more stress, and it won't take a toll on you so bad, right? So that's just like how our body adapts, but doing it in the right way is super important. Now, what we have to understand is that Your body is a chemistry lab. It is full of hormones, it is full of different endorphins and different chemicals that are released, so to speak, in response to different things in life, right? So I'll go through a couple that I wrote down. These are the main ones and kind of how they affect your body. You've probably heard of a lot of them, if not all of them, and kind of how they work. But just as a reminder, right? There's endorphins. These are the feel-good chemicals that your body experiences after things like exercise, being exposed to heat, some type of intensity, right? And laughter. If you're laughing, your endorphins are going. There's dopamine. This is a big one. You've probably heard of this, but that's the release of when you experience motivation, when you've achieved reward, right? For you do work, you get a reward for it. Any type of achievement or progress. That's why we need dopamine to feel like we're moving forward. There's serotonin. This is responsible for regulating your mood, feeling a sense of contentment. You achieve that through sunlight, through movement, through being in rhythm, and just being out in nature. There's oxytocin. That's the feeling of connection, of touch, of the community, of relationships, and just building deep trust. And then there's adrenaline and norepinephrine, right? And that's the experience of energy, alertness, right? If someone cuts you off in the car, right? That's adrenaline. That's feeling challenged. That can happen through things like cold exposure or just like a really hard effort. Maybe it's exercise or with work, right? And a lot of times people are chasing these feelings through vices and outside substances. And we have to realize that our body already has all of these things inside of us, right? We already have this available, and we usually release them when we do something that asks something of us. We have to put effort into achieving these chemicals and these feelings. And that's the tricky part, right? Because the healthy high that you get from all of those chemicals and hormones usually comes after putting in some type of work. And of course, if we're looking for a quick release, we don't always think to say, hey, I want to put in some work to achieve this better feeling. We just want to go to the quickest thing possible, right? And this is the big point, and this is the part where you need to step back and really become aware so that you can start to make better decisions, right? Because we want the feeling of those things that I just listed without the effort. But the effort is what creates the feeling, right? So for an example, you don't feel amazing before a workout, but you feel great afterwards, right? You don't feel calm before doing breath work, but you feel calm afterwards, right? You don't feel powerful and alert and alive before a cold plunge, but you do afterwards, right? I could do this on and on. I have more examples, but you get the point, right? You have to do something, take action in order to achieve the chemical reaction, the hormonal release afterwards, right? And then what I like to call these, and I don't know what I'm going to name the episode just yet. I'm going to ponder on that, but I made a post about it, and I just basically wanted to say something about drugs, right? Like, I love drugs, and they're healthy drugs, and that's what I'm talking about. These are natural drugs that we have access to. For example, we have exercise, and that comes in the form of strength training, running, walking, yoga, doing sports, hiking, like all of those things that are physical exercise. And when you move your body in a state, right, that changes your state fast, right? It gets you out of your head and into your body. I used to say this when I was coaching the group sessions, but like, if people are pushing themselves hard, I'll joke around and say, how many of you guys were just thinking about the bills that you had to pay? And people laugh because obviously it's ridiculous, but like, you're not thinking about that stuff because you're so focused on the next rep or focusing on the movement that you're doing that it takes you out of your mind and into your body. So exercise is great. Then there's heat exposure in some way, like a hot yoga class, a sauna, just sweating in general, or like a very warm bath, right? And heat can feel like a reset because it forces you to be present. Again, you can't be in a hot yoga class where you're dripping sweat, the room's 95 degrees, and be fully distracted. You have to calm yourself, you have to breathe, you got to slow down, and you got to stay present with yourself throughout those movements. Then there's cold exposure, things like cold plunges, cold showers, or walks in the wintertime, right? And the cold is powerful because it teaches you how to stay calm in a discomfort like experience, in an uncomfortable experience, let's say. Then there's breath work, right? And this is one of the tools that I talk to all of my clients about. And it's one of the quickest ways that you can communicate safety to your body, right? It's not just some woo-woo thing that you see yoga teachers do or meditation experts, right? It is actually purposeful tool and technique that you can do in 1 to 2 minutes and totally reset your nervous system, like taking deep belly breaths, doing box breathing. I've had episodes about this, so I won't go too far into it, but breath work is huge. Then another one of my favorites is sunlight and nature, right? Getting sunlight in the morning to start your circadian rhythm and wake your body up. Walking outside, right? Being a part of the environment, getting sunlight hitting your face while you're walking. Even if it's cloudy, the sun rays come through, I promise, right? Grounding yourself, right? Getting your feet in the sand, in the grass, right? Getting a part of natural, that's not a word. Being a part of nature, right? And being a part of the environment, right? And the fact is a lot of these things that we're talking about, especially that last one with the sunlight, it's so simple, but so many people miss it, right? Like you're missing out on all of these gifts that the world and nature and our body has for us, because sometimes it's too simple, right? We think it's too good to be true. Another one is deep connection. Now this one's important because it's not like doing an exercise. It's something that is different, like having a deep conversation, right? Hugging your spouse, laughing with friends, just being around people who make you feel alive and give, I call them energy givers, right? Instead of energy takers, right? And this is just super important because we are so caught up in life, hustling, trying to work, trying to be productive, trying to do the next thing, that sometimes we forget to have that phone call or forget to just sit and be present with a friend and have a cup of coffee, right? Like these things are super important to experiencing those natural drugs that we were talking about. And the last one I wanted to mention was purpose and progress. And I know I just said we're all hustle and bustle, but I'm talking more so just doing something that is meaningful, that has purpose to you and your mission in life and what your value systems are based on, right? Keeping promises to yourself. If you're someone who wakes up and in your head you have all these plans and these things that you want to do and you break the promise to yourself, you're not really going to feel that good, right? So like keeping those promises to yourself, building towards something and serving other people. Man, when in doubt, if you're ever feeling down in the dumps and things aren't going right, go serve. Go feed people at a homeless shelter. Give someone at the convenience store $5. Pay for someone's coffee. I promise you, serving other people is the answer to feeling good. Now, the reason why the vices, the other things, the harmful things are so tempting is because they're quick and easy. And before I go into this, I'm not here to shame anyone. I don't want this conversation to come from a place of judgment because guess what? I'm a human just like you, and I have vices as well. So I deal with these things on a daily basis, right? But I don't want people to think I'm coming at them directly, but I want to bring this to a point because so many people they're damaging their health and they're impacting their future. And I know you're not trying to as a human. You're just trying to get through the day. You're just trying to relieve some stress. You're just trying to take the edge off. But if it's doing so in a harmful way, that's a problem, right? Because they're fast, they're easy, they're usually accessible, right? And they're predictable. You know, if you take said pill, you should feel a certain way. If you drink a few beers, you'll feel a certain way. So these things become predictable in your life, and that's why they're so easy to run to. But the problem becomes, right, they might give you some relief tonight, but they're going to take away your energy. They're going to take away your clarity, your confidence, and most importantly, your overall health and vitality for the long haul. And as these things compound, they cause serious problems, right? So that's why we want to always be aware of when we're experiencing these emotions, process them, and then you have a decision to make, right there, right? It's a decision to take the route of these healthier alternatives or the vice, right? And when you do the vices for a long time, they create side effects, right? Every single vice or coping mechanism that you engage in, it has a side effect. So think about it, right? So you could have lower energy, you could have sleep that's bad, you could have more anxiety, less motivation, your health starts to deplete. A big one for people is shame, right? If you're not talking about the things that you're doing and the vices that you're doing, maybe you're a closeted drinker or something like that, right? I don't want to pinpoint anyone, but these are things that happen, and then you become shameful about it. Then you lose trust with yourself, and then you become dependent on that thing, and you need more of the same thing over time because the effect it once had on you is not as much. It's not as effective as it once was, so you need to increase the frequency or the amount that you're doing, and that's when it becomes really scary, right? But if we flip that for those positive things that we were talking about, like the exercise, the saunas, the walks, the sunlight, right? Think about this. You get more energy, your mood improves, you get better sleep, more confidence, almost the opposite of all that I just said, right? More resilience, more discipline, a better body composition. And really what's most important is you have a better relationship and identity with yourself. You start looking at yourself and feeling internally that you are a different version and a better version of yourself. And that's super powerful right there. Like, who wouldn't want that? So as you can see, immediately the vices, the quick fix things, yeah, they take the edge off. But over time, when you're doing them, for 10, 20 years, we got some serious problems. Whereas the other ones, the compound effect works in your favor. And if you do those over time and build those into your habits and your lifestyle, that's where we really create some wins. And when we're talking about doing either of these, we're talking about pain, right? Pain is something that we're experiencing, but it's not always something that you need to escape, right? This we need to dial into presence. And like I said, be aware of when we're experiencing certain emotions and certain pain. And just know that, like, feeling discomfort, that's a part of being a human being, right? Like, if you're a human being, you're breathing, you're listening to this episode, guess what? You're going to experience discomfort, right? We are not meant to feel amazing every second of the day. Life would get boring if we always just felt good, right? Sometimes that stress, the sadness, the frustration that you're experiencing, that's information from your body, your subconscious, the universe, whatever you want to say, to you to either learn a lesson or to embody so that you can make a better decision down the road. But the problem is when we numb it every single time, we can't learn from it. We can't listen to that lesson that we're trying to get from somewhere in the universe and move down the path of life and grow from it. So realize that these healthy modalities, they don't just make you feel better. They help you become a type of person who can handle more. Your bucket for stress becomes larger, right? Your capacity to handle hard times and stressful situations and people and whatever it is becomes larger. That's why it's so important, because not only is it compounding the healthy effects in your life, you become a more abundant person to be able to deal with that stuff in the first place, right? Like going into a cold plunge, that teaches you how to breathe under stress. When you work out and you challenge your body, that teaches you that going for effort and pushing yourself can change your physical state, right? The sauna, if you're sitting in a sauna, it teaches you to sit with discomfort, because no, it's not comfortable sitting in 100 and something degree heat, right? When you go for a walk, that teaches you that clarity can come from movement. So all of these things are learning lessons that not only bring you some clarity in the moment, but also teach you a lesson and build your capacity for more, right? And then we have the other side of it, right? Where there's earned pleasure that we were just talking about versus the escaped pain. And that would be coming from the vices, right? And there's a difference between earned pleasure and escape pain. Escape pain is when you run from your life. It's when things are going bad and you don't want to face it. You want to point the finger at someone else or just use something to stop this feeling. But earned pleasure is when you do something intentionally to build your life, right? Escape pain usually makes you feel emptier afterwards. You feel like a shell of yourself. Earned pleasure makes you feel full of life and full of joy and like you're more whole with yourself, right? So the goal is never to enjoy comfort. The goal is to stop using comfort as a way to abandon yourself. Right? Because we want to curl up into a ball and just be on the couch and not deal with our problems, but that's not the goal. That's not what we want to do in the long term. Now, what can we do to achieve this, right? How can you essentially build your own natural pharmacy? Right? When you feel certain emotions, what can you do? So I'm going to give you an example of some. When you feel anxious, go for a walk outside, right? Doesn't matter what the weather is. Bundle up, get yourself outside and go for a walk. You can do a breathing technique for 5 minutes. You could lift some weights. You could clean up your situation, your environment. Maybe it's your desk, your car, your home. I believe that an organized environment leads to less anxiety overall. It always works for me when my car is clean, my clothes are put away, the kitchen is clean, like all of that stuff is orderly. There's less to think about, right? When you feel low energy, right? Get some sunlight, hydrate with minerals, move your body around for 10 minutes, right? Eat a protein-rich meal. These are all things that you have access to do, right? When you feel stressed, you can go in the sauna, you can do a journal, maybe you do some breath work, maybe you just do some stretching. When you feel disconnected from the world, because it's a world where we're so connected through our phone, but at the same time so far away, right? Call a friend, meet in person, have a real conversation. Go do a fitness class. Go spend some time with people who elevate your level, right? Some people who bring your energy up and you know who they are. Again, I don't have to tell you, but when you're around them, you feel good. Or you can do something creative like paint or draw or like something with your hands, like something artistic. And just know if you're feeling stuck, right, you can do one hard thing, take one action, move your body in one way, and that can create the inertia, right? Getting you out of the normal environment that you're in and step towards a better feeling, towards more positive outcomes. So you just need to move the body, take one action, and get the ball rolling. So when you feel stuck, don't panic. Take one action immediately, right? So what you can do, an actionable takeaway from this episode, is for the next 7 days, before you reach for the normal vice or the thing that you used to do to escape, just pause and ask yourself, right? What is the natural version of this that I'm looking for right now, right? If you want to feel calm, could you breathe instead, right? If you want energy, could you go for a walk or move your body? If you want relief, right? Can you walk? Can you talk to somebody? If you want confidence, can you make a small promise to yourself today, right now, that you can hold for yourself and do no matter what? And then really just realize that you don't have to do all of this in one day. You don't have to revamp your whole life. You can just start by proving to yourself that you have access and your body has access to change your state naturally. You don't have to look for an outside source or some type of some vice. Again, we're using these words interchangeably, right? So just bringing it all back and trying to land this plane here. When I was walking out of that hot yoga class, it really reminded me that there are so many ways that we can feel incredible that don't take away from us, right? They give back to us. They build our energy, our confidence, our resilience, our vitality, and that's super powerful. So if there's one thing that you got from this, I would love for you to jot it down, write a note, take action on it, or share it with a friend, right? Because this is stuff that can really take you from a dark place. Trust me, I've had crippling anxiety. I've had times where my face was numb. I couldn't even think of the next thing to do. But going for a walk helped me. Talking to a friend helped me. Taking an exercise class helped me. And so I'm talking about these things from a state of experience and how beneficial they were for me. They just kind of got re-brought up, and this conversation came from me doing that yoga class. So I'm here for you. If you ever need help, if you ever have any questions or someone to talk to, I will be your friend. I will literally hop on the phone with you or communicate however you need to help. But please just don't allow the overwhelm of life to take control, because you have control. And I just gave you a bunch of ways that you can take back. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did, like I said, share it with a friend, take some action, and I will see you guys next week. Hey, thanks for spending some time with me on today's episode. I hope you got a ton of value from it. If we're not connected on Instagram yet, let's change that. Hit me up at Sean Calhoun _. That's SEAN Calhoun _. Shoot me a DM. Let me know what you think of the show, or if you got any questions about how to level up your health. I'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the next episode.